Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe, floating through the void of Yah's creation. It's the 22nd of May, 2025, and as always, I'm taking the mainstream media, the legacy media, to task day after day. They massage, they manipulate, they propagandize, and they lie. And guess what? You won't be trusted anymore. All right, welcome to the Thursday edition of the WTF Reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist, and I tell you, day after day, we get all the more reason to say, WTF, what is going on in this world? Man, I tell you, I've been screaming from the rooftops for 30 years about this stuff. People aren't paying attention. All of us conspiracy theorists and we so-called extremists, we're batting 1,000. We are batting 1,000. We are absolutely dead on the money on all this information. And the mainstream media and, people with their heads stuck in the sand, they just don't want to hear it. Well, don't forget, if you got your head stuck in the sand, that means your butt is exposed. Anyway, today's broadcast is brought to you in part by the Wavwatch. Now, the Wavwatch, as you are probably well aware, if you haven't already done so, I implore you to go to our website, TheWTFReports, and click on the sponsors area and check out the Wavwatch. Do your own research. Because, as Tesla said, frequency is everything. And Royal Raymond Rife took it another step and found that frequencies will help you, and they can do many, many things for your body. Yes, they can. So do some research. And again, I'm not here to tell you that it's going to treat or cure anything. This is for your entertainment and educational purposes only. But the Wavwatch is something to stand up and take notice of. And for that reason, later on in this broadcast, I'm going to bring on the developer of the Wavwatch. Her name is Linda Bamber, and she'll be joining me in just a little while. But the first part of this broadcast, I have to tell you, I've been saying this for a long time. A lot of people don't want to hear it. But the globalist agenda wants to reduce the population by over 90%. They want you dead. I'm serious as a heart attack. I'm not stupid. I'm not crazy, and I don't lie. I've been at this for a long time, and I'm very well documented and on the record for many years saying pretty much the same doggone thing. Just do your research. Vet me. I triple dog dare you to vet me. Go on to YouTube. Just do it. Do it, okay? And then you'll say, oh my gosh, Dave, yeah, you were screaming about this years ago. And I say, yeah, absolutely. You want to talk about the word frustration, that doesn't do it for me. And there's a lot of us, and I'm not just talking about me. I'm not talking just about me. I'm talking about many, many, many other people for many years have been screaming from the rooftops about this very important issue. And that is, it's about eugenics and depopulation. And we need to do any and everything that we can to prevent that from happening. And that means looking into alternatives, not the allopathic medicine, the cut, slash, burn, and radiate mentality. We have to be looking outside of that because the powers that be are doing everything that they can, and they've been at it for a long time, to reduce the population. Now, I got a couple of audio clips here to prove the point. And basically it backs up what I've been telling you for months and months and months on this network, months and months on the other network, and years and years and years and years and years on other networks. Anyway, this is there was a podcast, and there was no there's no credit here. I don't know where this podcast came from. There were two African Americans that were discussing this issue. You need to hear what these guys have to say. Check this out. These guys are not blowing smoke. Here it is.
Why did we experience this COVID-19 pandemic?
Ooh, beautiful question. He trying to get taken off of YouTube. Brother trying to get... It's all right, though. It's just a question. You know what? I'm going to answer it hopefully in a way where you won't get marked on YouTube.
No, I want the flat out.
Okay, well, you want the truth, y'all.
Yeah, I want the truth.
Should we give him the truth, y'all?
Please do.
Yeah, they want the truth. Absolutely.
All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth.
All right, and I got to tell you that this broadcast is 2 years ago. This is on May 30th of 2023. Listen to this.
So my intellectual extremists, that's who we are. Okay, cool. I'm giving you. All right, I'll say it this way. Number one, again, The overall agenda is depopulation. Prove that. Number one, you have the National Security Study Memorandum 200, also known as NSSM 200, which was written under Dr. Henry Kissinger, who was the 32nd Secretary of State under President Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford, by which he stated, quote, depopulation should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the third world, end quote. It wasn't just for the third world countries, it was also for domestic policies here in America. As a part of that, they had 13 countries on that list. As a part of it, you had the Department of Defense, you had the Department of Agriculture. You had all of these departments that were inside of this policy. That policy was to get rid of the population by any means in strategic areas, was dealing with food, also in something called Global 2000 under President Jimmy Carter. You had it when it comes to vaccinations, shots, when it comes to water, when it comes to reproductive services. So all of these areas and arenas were ways to look at how can we reduce the population strategically. Planned Parenthood is one.
Okay.
Vaccinations is another.
Okay.
Fluoridated water is another. The manipulation of nature, herbs, and food, hence the medical marijuana, hence the GMOs in the food, the cloning of the food. Roughly 78 to 80% of the food is genetically modified, destroying the ovaries, destroying the sperm, shrinking the testicles, shrinking the ovaries, creating tumors, creating an inability for people to reproduce, making men sterile, making women infertile. All of these things. So Corona, which you will see now, is causing a high level of her infertility, sterility. It is causing women to have these spontaneous, long-standing menstrual cycles, abnormal menstrual cycles. Corona attacking the upper respiratory of the system, which is an area that has been attacked for years in the black and brown communities because of the poor food, the poor water, the poor air quality. So if I can create a virus that is airborne, that will agitate that area because of the pre-existing conditions that I have set up before, then I have now come up with a surefire way to get rid of a large population.
Okay, I'm going to pause that right there. Now, for those of you who haven't been listening on a regular basis, please, I implore you, go to our website, the WTF Reports, and listen to some of the archives, because I've been carrying this for some time. Many doctors and physicians, they're all in agreement of this. And I do have my guest on the line. She's on hold on the side, and I asked her to hold on there because there's a couple of things that I need to get to basically bolster the idea that we have to do everything and anything that we can to protect ourselves. This continues.
I know who got diabetes. I know who got asthma. I know who has heart problems because I created it.
Yeah.
I put the chemicals in the food. I put the chemicals in the water. Nigga, you think I don't know? I made it like this. And I wanted to put the last point on top of it, which was a virus that you would spread on your own and kill each other on your own. The United States government's bioweapons division in Fort Detrick, Maryland creates viruses all the damn time. Ebola was manufactured. They just named it after the river in the Congo. It's called the Ebola River. And then you name a virus after it and then make the people hate Africa because you're going to go in and destroy the population and take over the diamonds, the rubies, the gold, etc. as well. You got to know what kind of enemy you're dealing with here. So Corona, which stands for crown.
Come on.
Corona, there's over 50 strains of coronaviruses. Corona's existed for over 30 years, but this is the last most mutated strain of it.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. This, again, there is so much information to back up what is being said here. And as a matter of fact, I want to go to the congressional testimony yesterday where Congressman Ron Johnson was talking to Dr. Peter McCullough, who's been screaming from the rooftops for all this time about exactly what we're talking about here. Now, this is, they're talking about the deaths as a result of the hokey pokey thingy dingy, because I can't say the word. I'll get a mark against my account. Anyway, this is Senator Ron Johnson and Dr. Peter McCullough yesterday in the congressional testimony. Listen up.
And do you have any science to back up your opinion?
The best data are autopsies. So in the largest autopsy series published to date, I know because I'm the senior author, of all the deaths we examined, and we re-reviewed them, we had an adjudication committee, we had ways of arbitration, deciding on did the vaccine cause death. The answer is, of these cases that came in for autopsy after vaccination, 73.9% of individuals, it was determined that the vaccine was the cause of death. First author is Holscher and colleagues. He's sitting right behind me.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And that's Dr. Peter McCullough yesterday in the congressional testimony. But wait. there's more. Joe Rogan was talking about it on his program, about the death rate and, about how many people have died because of not just one. There's just one major company. Of course, that's Pfizer. But Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, they're also in the wings as well. This is what Joe Rogan was talking about, and I'm not quite sure. I think this was yesterday or the day before. But listen up to this.
VAERS adjusted data and other derived from the MIT Florida Department of Health study findings that yield a conservative range of 470,000 to 600,000 American deaths from the COVID-19 mRNA shots.
That's it?
More than, just that alone.
Wow.
That's a lot of people, man. More than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined. If that's true.
Let that sink in.
It indicates Pfizer, this is Pfizer alone, so this is not even Moderna.
Oh, okay.
Pfizer alone likely killed over 470,000 Americans. They found a 36% increase in all-cause mortality among Pfizer recipients versus Moderna.
Isn't that amazing, folks? We keep telling you, this is not about keeping you healthy. It's about keeping you sick. Remember that the best customer is a repeat customer. And once you get sick, if they can get you on a whole series of medications and just keep on making that profit until you croak, that is their goal. That is what they do. As a matter of fact, I got one more clip here. Dr. David Martin. Okay, he's getting a lot of attention these days. He was on with the Epoch Times, and he was talking about Remdesivir. Now, I want to give you a little background on Remdesivir. Remdesivir is manufactured by GlaxoSmithKline. Do you know who the major shareholders are in GlaxoSmithKline? They just happen to be members of the National Institute of Health, the NIH. And who heads up the NIH? Well, glory, Oski, what do you know? Dr. Anthony Fauci. Give a listen to this. This is Dr. David Martin. Here he is.
Remember that in 2018, Remdesivir, one of my favorite targets, Remdesivir was too unethical to put into Ebola clinical trials in Africa because it had a 53% kill rate published in medical journals. Ebola doesn't have a 53% kill rate, but it was chosen in April and May of 2020 to be the drug of choice to treat COVID. This drug was too unethical to use in an African clinical trial because it was killing 53% of the people that it was given to. And we had Anthony Fauci, Deborah Birx sitting next to the president going, we need to use Remdesivir, despite the fact that the World Health Organization said it was unethical to use it. Here's the problem. The problem is, as long as the financial interest that dictates what product is going to be promoted is the one making the declaration of the pandemic, we have no possibility for accountability. We have no possibility for justice. And what we do is we allow people who were formed out of the eugenics office, Carnegie Mellon in 1913, that same group of people that were the same group of people that established the World Health Organization in 1953, that same group of people are the ones who are making this decision. And I don't know how you feel about eugenics, but I have a problem with it.
That's it. All I got to say is that they don't really care about us. Well, they do care. They care a lot. They care enough to want to reduce the population any and every way that they can, which is all the more reason we have to do any and everything we can to prevent that from happening. And that means looking into alternative treatments and just taking care of yourself, which is why, and I've known this for a long time, I investigated this 20-odd years ago when I found out about Rife machines, and they work. I know that they work. I've done it. And there's all kinds, about 30 years ago, there was a woman by the name of Hulda Clark, and she came out with what she called a zapper, which was basically a very basic electronic device. You held a copper tube in each hand, and it connected to a little box. You put a 9-volt battery in there, and it would produce square waves. It was a very, very, very basic device that created a frequency that was supposed to, harmonize your entire body. Well, over the past 20, 30 years, there are several different versions of Rife technology that have come out, and you can do some research, and some of these machines are extremely expensive with a huge learning curve. And so for that reason, a lot of people are not aware of it. There are some clinicians out there using Rife technology, but you don't hear about them because the mainstream doesn't like that. Well, this is why when I found out about the Wavwatch, I had to stand up and take notice, and I did some research on this, and I was very impressed with the results. And this is why I jumped on board and say, look, folks, you need to know about this, because this is rife technology that has been miniaturized and extremely easy to use. And that's why I'm bringing on to the program today Linda Bamber. Linda, are you there?
I'm there. Can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. I'm so glad to have you joining me. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to have you on hold while I was, playing some of these clips. But I wanted to give the listeners a reason to stand up and pay attention and take notice. Because we are in a very, very precarious situation here. Because the people that we rely upon to keep us healthy are obviously doing everything to keep the opposite from happening. So, Linda, before we get started, I got to ask you, how did you find out about Rife Technology, and what possessed you to jump on board and develop the Wavwatch?
Well, there's even another tool that I've used for almost 20 years now, and it's called Biomeridian, MSA. It's made by ihtbio.com if you wanted to try to look it up. And it is a computerized system that has about 50,000 ideas with frequencies on it that are kind of adapted from the Rife machine, a different take completely. But I've used that, and I could test people, and it literally, I was holding their hands and then touching them with a stylus, and it was reading energy in their system, and it would come up on the computer screen and tell me that they might have XYZ virus or parasite or whatever. And it was just so valid and so good and hit the mark so much that, I bought into the $18,000 system and have used it. And
what's that website again? What's the website again?
ihtbio.com, I believe.
IHT
yes.
Bio. Okay, got it. Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
And so this tool is, not a Rife machine, but, along those lines also. And so, I just knew that I love this technology and that there ought to be an easier way to use it. I mean, who can afford $18,000?
Yeah, right.
Who wants to have a degree? So just like what you said, we have to find different ways to protect ourselves. And so, the idea popped into my head of putting frequencies on a watch. And it's been kind of fun to say that was even before the Apple Watch came out that I had this idea and started some basic patent type drawings and things like that.
Really? That early?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I didn't know.
Idea for a long time.
I didn't realize that you were
the technology.
You were doing this before the Apple Watch?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Trying to put frequencies, but the technology really wasn't there. We didn't have music players or anything like that at that time. So, it kind of set for a while, and then I actually got it developed after I started another business and worked with a lot of women who had breast health problems. So I don't know how much to go into that or not, but I was just looking for something that was easier because I started a business when both my mother and sister had breast cancer at the same time.
Oh.
And my doctors just told me to have a double mastectomy and forget about it.
What?
And yeah, and as a teacher, I'm like yelling in my head going, are you kidding? I could think of something better than that.
Really, that's a great big WTF right there. Oh my God.
Yeah. And so I started a business called BRAS, and it's an acronym, Breast Research Awareness and Support. So I used that machine I mentioned earlier, and then I have taught women for all that time how to protect their breast health in many natural ways. And so, the website for that is BRAS Thermography, another complete name, thermography, instead of mammogram. So it's a complete different system that is not radiation.
Yeah, they're telling women now to avoid mammograms. That's what I've heard anyway.
Yeah. Supposedly they say that, and then you look it up and they'll say, oh no, that was nonsense. So they're trying to squelch it, just like everything. Yeah. So that's a little bit behind the history of it, that as I kept working with, 5,000 to 6,000 women with breast problems or to try to protect their health, I just finally said, oh my gosh, I've got to get these frequencies developed, and, thank you, God, for this idea, and let's get going on it, And and that's because women have so many problems. And the only thing that would cover every single one of these ideas with women was a frequency. There's a frequency for everything. That's kind of become my saying. There's a frequency for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I got I have the sticker here when I got my Wavwatch 2.0, and the sticker says, "There's a frequency for that."
Well, seriously, if I can expand just a little bit, because this is, National Women's, Health Month, basically. I mean, women were having trouble. They would have breast problems from teeth. I don't know if most people don't realize that there are 8 teeth, 2 up and 2 down on each side, that can drain down into our breasts and be connected with our problems. We can have certain viruses, certain bacteria, certain parasites, let alone our emotions. The list is just endless. So I had quite a supply of ideas and supplements and things that I would tell women about, but that's all changed with the Wavwatch, because all of those ideas are easily transferred onto your wrist with a frequency that you can wear and absorb very, very quickly. Actually, frequencies go through your body faster than the speed of sound.
Right, and that's something I wanted to point out. There's a little bit of science behind this. A lot of people are aware that the speed of sound is about 620 miles an hour. That's in the atmosphere, through the air. But the speed of sound is about 4 times that in liquid. And this is one of the reasons why whales can communicate over long distances, and they can hear from much farther. So that's one thing. Is that, your body obviously is over 80% water, which means that when you've got the Wavwatch, if you're wearing it on your wrist, the little speaker that with the frequency goes into your wrist, which is 80% liquid, which means that travels through your entire body. Now, you may not hear it physically through your ears, but your body's hearing it. And that's the key. That's what the amazing thing about this device is, that when you're using this, your whole body is resonating on those frequencies. So I just wanted to throw that in there. That's a little science behind why this thing works.
That was an over-the-top explanation. I'm going to have to see if I can memorize that about the whales. I didn't know that, Dave. Perfect.
Yeah, well, that's what, when they sing and they pop and they crackle and they make all those noises, those sounds go for miles and miles, and that's how they communicate over all those miles. And so, this is why this is such an amazing technology. The liquid, which is your body, carries those frequencies through the entire body. So I think that's just really cool. It really is.
And let me tell you the opposite side. Anything that we take, like a medication or a prescription, does go into our body, and it's more a chemical wave. And the chemical waves move through our body at a foot a second. And that is so slow that our body's heat burns it up, and only 2% of it is absorbed.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So that's why they've got us all tied down to buying different supplements, meds, whatever word I want to say here, month after month after month, and why so many things do not work very quickly, because they're not absorbed. It takes lots of repetition to get anything to work at the speed that it goes through our body. Where frequencies, basically, when we are absorbing the frequency from the Wavwatch, what it does is start receptors to vibrate inside a cell. There's about 70 receptors, and they start moving when they feel that frequency from the Wavwatch. And then that makes the whole cell vibrate, and then that makes the next cell and the next cell, and then poof, it's about 4.3, 4.3 times faster than the speed of sound, just like you were saying. It zips through our body. So it's really amazing what frequencies can do, and how different things are not able to adapt to that and use it, and we'll forever be on different products if we do not switch over to a frequency, and that's an old idea. For over 100 years, frequencies have been banned. You know that because you're talking about rice machines.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is why when Nikola Tesla was putting out all his information, the powers that be were not too happy about that, because he was talking about free energy. He was talking about all kinds of things that would absolutely destroy the power structure in business today. And when they went in there and took all of his papers, I understand that one of the people who received those papers, who still has them, was John Trump, who was Donald Trump's uncle. And I found it really interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I don't remember the general's name, but he was an Air Force general, and he was talking about the idea that there are new technologies that are going to revolutionize our world. And I can't help but think that this is exactly what he's talking about, these frequencies that were discovered by Tesla and embellished upon by Royal Raymond Rife. And, of course, Rife, he went through his problems as well. The FBI found out that he was doing all kinds of marvelous things with frequencies, and they busted into his place. He had 2 of those microscopes that he developed. And this is interesting. Royal Raymond Rife had made a microscope, and it was based upon lenses and prisms. He could magnify 50,000 times just, with these lenses and prisms. And the thing is, in today's technology, you have to do an electron microscope to see that magnify on that level, which means that you have to irradiate whatever it is that you want to look at, which means you kill it. So if you want to look at a virus through an electron microscope, you're looking at a dead virus. But Rife, with his microscope, he could see the virus in its living state. And this is why when he exposed those viruses to different frequencies, just like the wine glass that's shattered by the opera singer, certain frequencies would destroy these viruses. And this is why the FBI and the established allopathic healthcare system felt very threatened by this. So when they busted in his place, they destroyed one of his microscopes, they confiscated the other, and they took all of his materials. So he went through the same crap that Nikola Tesla went through. I don't know if you knew that little bit of history, but like I said, I've been on this for 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because Nikola basically coined that term, like you mentioned, the crystal glass breaking with a high sound.
Right.
And he called that the mortal oscillation rate.
Oh, okay.
We haven't learned that, but it's so simple. We haven't rolled over the idea that, we can sing a high note and break a crystal goblet, but we can also use a note, and I use acoustical frequencies on the Wavwatch. And so once we know what that, the correct note is, which they do, thanks to Rife, we know thousands and thousands of frequencies for every virus and parasite, that kind of thing. Once we have the correct frequency, once it goes in our body, if that same virus is in our body, those 2 frequencies meet and they self-amplify and blow up.
That's right. And it goes 2 ways.
However you want to say it.
It goes 2 ways, so that those frequencies can be used to destroy viruses and bacteria and parasites, but also those frequencies can make certain cells flourish. And that's the key. Is that it's not just to destroy pathogens, but it's to help healthy cells be healthier.
Yes, it goes both ways. And the AMA, if I'm understanding correctly, tried to buy out Rife, Royal Raymond Rife, and when he refused, that's when they destroyed him. That is kind of the story, if I can say that. I've already said it, And so he died penniless when he had discovered some of the most amazing things. And like you say, his microscope is unrivaled today, So it was an amazing story. And I'd encourage everyone to look up Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, and that's R-I-F-E. If you are wanting to understand more about what we could have done with our healing abilities. And now we can do that. We're going back there again, but it's 100 years slow.
That's right. As a matter of fact, Dr. Stephen Greer, of course, a lot of people think of Dr. Stephen Greer and his research into UFOs and extraterrestrials and all that, which is a valid research. But he has a documentary that he put out about a year or maybe 2 years ago, and it's called The Lost Century. And he covers all of the technologies, including Rife, including Tesla, that have been suppressed for over a century. Now, if these technologies had been released, I mean, this would be a completely different world that we're living in. And it's the powers that be, you know, the movers, the shakers, the policymakers, the globalists, the international, multinational bankers. I mean, they all love their money. They love the money. Yeah, they love the control. Yeah, that's what it's all about, is control and money. And this is why they've been suppressing these technologies for all this time. But they're about to explode. And I'm so glad that you're on the forefront of this. And let me ask you, now your first Wavwatch, you came out with that, what was it, about 3 years ago? How long ago did the first Wavwatch come out?
4.5 years ago.
Okay, 4.5 years ago. Okay. And I experimented with that when I got my first Wavwatch, and the first thing I did is I used it for a sleep program, because when you get on in years, you don't really get a good full 8 hours of sleep. You know, I'm lucky if I get 5.5 or 6 hours. So the first night that I got that Wavwatch and I put on the sleep program, doggone, I slept for 7.5 hours. I was shocked. I said, whoa, wait a second. No, that couldn't be. But son of a gun, I did it again the next night, and I was sleeping like a baby. And then I started running programs for my eyes because, I've been blessed with pretty good eyesight most of my life. I've never really needed glasses. But as I've gotten older, I start picking up those reading glasses. You know, I go to the dollar store and pick up a bunch of those for like $10 because, reading the newspaper was starting to get a challenge. I mean, I could see the headlines and I could see the bylines, but I couldn't read the text. So I started running the programs for macular degeneration, eye issues. And after about 3 weeks, one morning I picked up the newspaper and I could read. I said, wait a minute. I mean, I had to squint a little bit, but I could actually read the text. I said, no, wait a minute. No. This is what made me stand up and take notice on this and why I jumped on board with this. And to the listeners out there, I'm not a sellout. I mean, I could go out there and hawk any things that I want. I could jump on board with Mike Lindell and My Pillow and, sell all kinds of stuff. But I'm not going to allow that to happen to this program. Because years ago when I was doing the Power Hour with Joyce, this is sort of what happened to the show. It eventually evolved into an infomercial. And I don't want my shows to turn into an infomercial. But in this particular case, I'm making an exception because this is technology that has to be out there. And with all the stuff, this is why I played all of these audio clips before I brought you on. The powers that be are doing every and anything they can to reduce the population. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the fact, and it's very well documented. This is what they're doing, and it's not what they say, it's what they do. It's deeds, not words. And if you look at what they're doing, it's all over the place. They're doing everything they can to keep you sick and make you dead. It's as simple as that. And this is why I'm so excited to have you joining me here. Anyway, I want to get back to this issue. You said 4 years ago you came out with the first Wavwatch. And now you've got Wavwatch 2.0, which I got about 2 weeks ago. And I'm having fun with this. This is there's so much stuff here, so many frequencies. I don't know which one to start with, but I'm using it for my eyes, and I'm also using a couple of frequencies for parasites. But anyway, I just wanted to jump in there because I'm so excited about this, But
well, thank you so much. I wish you could see me nodding my head. Everything you're saying, I'm just going, yes, you're right. That's what I think too. It's just a strange world that we live in, and one that we had better wake up to. So the Wavwatch is my attempt to share with people to, help people, and also to kind of wake people up, to give a message that we had better pay attention to just some of the simplest things that we can do for our health. So the whole idea about the Wavwatch is thousands of years old. People use toning and singing. They actually have a study that was done with just a couple of women, but they were taught to hum a certain tone for 3.5 hours every day for a month, and their breast cancer went away. They actually had verified breast cancer. And so to me, that's what jumped up in my mind. Yes, we used to use toning. We used to go into churches that had amazing sounds when we went in them, and we were receiving sound.
Church bells.
In many different ways. Yes, and the church bells and all these kind of things that we had tones that we were receiving, but no more. We're not getting necessarily good tones. So we can do so much with tones, but it's harder and harder. I don't have time to tone something for 3.5 hours a day for a month, you know, but I have time, and that was just one tone. Well, the Wavwatch, by contrast, has 24,000 tones, if I can be specific.
Whoa.
All wrapped in there. And it's just on your wrist, and you are your own self-care person, and you just look through the information. And we do have a bot now on our website, so that if you're trying to find a real specific idea that you want, you can look it up, and it'll tell you which frequency to use for that possible idea.
Yeah, what? Give me the website. Give me the website. I want that website. Give it up.
It's real easy. It's Wavwatch, W-A-V, waves and vibrations. There's no E on the end of it. So wavwatch.com. Really easy, And so you can go there and, see a little bit more about the frequencies. Now, Dave, from the first watch that you had to the second, we did have to be more generic on our terms, and that's because of our lovely FDA, needs. They, yes.
Yeah, the Federal Death Administration.
Yeah, they do some things that keep us in line. So anyway, we tried to simplify it. It is smaller and it is lighter weight, and then there's frequency sets that are made for you. And let me give you this idea.
Okay. So
there's a frequency set. Most of them are an hour and 4 minutes at least. There are some variations. But so if you say you're looking through and you have a hangover, I actually could not use the word hangover. So I changed it, of course, to after party support. Okay. Just being silly here, but that's really true. So when I say that word, people immediately go, "Oh, I get it." So there's stuff in there for headaches, and for nausea, and for dizziness, and for cleaning out your liver. Oh, I get it. So that's what I've done. Every single frequency set in there has a variety of ideas for a particular problem, and it just kind of makes it fun to tell the idea about the after party support. Everybody knows that we got to cover all these ideas, So that's what's been done inside each of those frequencies.
Yeah, you could call it post-alcohol toxicity or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I could have some different names, but you try to be as simple as possible, but get the idea across, so that people can use it. So anyway, that's, what has changed a little bit is the wording, the simplification of some of those words.
Yeah.
But every single frequency is in there because we have so many testimonies.
Well, how many frequencies? How many frequencies are there in there?
Well, there's 1,100 specific frequency sets, and each frequency, quote unquote, may have up to 30 sounds, in it. So that's where I get the 24,000 ideas. But you're only seeing 146 to select from. And then behind the scenes, all those frequencies are playing. So it so simplifies it for you, makes it much easier. And people do believe in tuning forks or singing bowls.
Yeah, Tibetan bowls.
All that kind of thing. But how many bowls can you have? You know, I mean, we have 24,000 distinct tones on there if you were to be able to hear it and break it down. So we have gone beyond with that technology and simplified it and put it on your wrist. And one of my most exciting testimonies just recently was a lady who came up at a convention, and she had essential tremors. So you could just see her hands just shaking in the wind, and her sister kind of volunteered for her and said, yeah, she can't even hold a glass of water. She can't hardly eat anymore, and she put the Wavwatch on, what frequency that we now call wave relief. And that's for relief of all kinds of swelling and soreness and stiffness and joints, and the list goes on and on. But in 3 minutes, her essential tremors of 3 years were gone.
Wow. By the way, I have to jump in there. I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to say, just to keep it legal, that this broadcast is for your informational and educational purposes only. We are not claiming to treat or cure anything. This is just simply for your informational purposes only. I just had to throw that in there because I don't want to get you or me in trouble. Yeah. And by the way, I noticed
that earlier because, we can go with some testimonies, and we do have her video on our website, and we have other videos on Instagram and stuff like that. People that have sent us examples of how frequencies have changed their life.
Well, I noticed there are a couple of people who a lot of us know who they are. Dr. What's his name? Brian Ardis. And he's very much out there on social media. Of course, he's been screaming about the COVID issue and all this other stuff. And I saw he was wearing a Wavwatch. I said, wait a second.
Yeah.
And then I saw Jan Helper Hayes from Space Force. And I can't guarantee it, but I was watching an interview, and it looked to me that she was wearing a Wavewatch. Can you confirm that Jan Helper Hayes is wearing one?
I think that might be possible because Dr. Carrie Madej hooked us up with her.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, so for those of you out there that have been paying attention, you know these names, and you know that these people are on the front line of trying to expose what's going on with the hokey pokey thingy dingy. I can't say it because I'll get censored. But no, there are a lot of people, very prominent physicians and health providers that are aware of this technology, and they're using it. So why don't you, dear listener, check this stuff out? Oh, and by the way, every Wednesday you have a webinar, an online Zoom call. Could you tell the listeners about that?
Yes, and once a month we do take testimonies from people. And recently we've had someone call in from Denmark a lot and give us some amazing testimony. So it's been just really fun. And then we have guests on, and then once in a while I'll do a teaching unit, and teach something about the Wavewatcher. Here's how you could use it for XYZ, So that's at 10 o'clock Central Time every Wednesday. And you can go to the website and get the link for that. It's up there on it, or put in your email, and we will send an email to you or text you about that coming up.
Okay, and I want to take this opportunity for the listeners out there. If you're standing up and taking notice to this broadcast and you want to jump on board with this, please go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, and scroll. You can click on the sponsors button or just scroll to the bottom of the page, and there's a link right there to the Wavewatch. And if you use the promo code REDPILL100, you'll save a bunch of bucks. Okay. I don't know if you want to talk about the cost of these things, just so people know what is the price on these, and you're going to get $100 off if you use the promo code. So,
right.
Okay.
So it's going to be $597 with the promo code taken off. So it'll be right around the 600 mark. And then at this point in time, we're running a special, and you'll get a $100 gift certificate that you could share with somebody else who might be thinking about ordering one or whatever. And we have different specials, a lot. But it has been very exciting to be able to work with people. We do have all kinds of, we have wholesale, and we have affiliates and different ways to work with the watch. But the interest has definitely been growing, because you don't have to think very long to know that you can pay for this when you look at some of the testimonies that have saved thousands of dollars. And again, these are testimonies. But you can also make payments on it. When you get ready to check out, I'll ask you about payments, and you can sign up to make payments, or you could use your HSA or FSA also and save 30%, it looks like.
Excellent.
You do it that way.
And I also want to point out, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I also want to point out that if you folks want to do some research into Rife machines, take a look at some of these. They're absolutely, wonderful technology, wonderful machines, but you look at how expensive they are. I mean, you're talking anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000, and plus there's a huge learning curve. And plus, when you use their machines, you have to be sitting in the chair, you have to be tied to the machine, holding onto this, or and it's a little bit more difficult to use. So when you take a look at the convenience factor and you take a look at the cost factor, I mean, it becomes a no-brainer. I mean, this is stupid simple here, So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there because a lot of folks may have never seen or heard of a Rife machine, and that's why I encourage people always to do your own research. Anyway, I wanted to throw that in there.
And
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Dave, what I say too is it's a form of music. It sounds a little bit more like a bee buzz, but these are acoustical frequencies. The ones I put on the Wavwatch, I had to do some mathematical work and, do some changing around from Rife frequencies. They're Rife-like frequencies, but they are in the acoustical sound range.
Uh-huh.
And so people, all you have to do is think about how you've used music in your life. You know that if you're driving down the road and your favorite song comes up, you turn it up on the radio and you hum with it or you move with it or something.
Mm-hmm.
And your countenance changes, or you get, you calm down or you pep up, whatever the song does for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how these songs, these quote unquote songs, are so fantastic for your body. It moves to it, it changes it,
Right.
and it's safe because it's acoustical frequencies. And then the other big question that ties in is people will say, well, somebody I know has a pacemaker, can they use it? And I'm saying, well, has your doctor told you that you can't listen to music? Well, no.
Yeah, right.
Well, then there's no reason you can't use the Wavwatch. They're just the same thing. But there are other tools that you can't use if you have a pacemaker. You're not supposed to use a lot of natural tools that are more PEMF type things. They are a little bit dangerous, So the Wavwatch is sound. It is a musical sound, quote unquote, but more like a bee buzz. Nothing that you can sing along to, but just a humming sound.
Yeah, and I want to point out that frequencies can be looked at in three different ways. Okay, there are light frequencies, there are electrical frequencies, and there are sound frequencies. They all pretty much work in the same way, but they just it's sort of like a different delivery system. The bottom line here is we're dealing with frequency, and the sound frequency, I suppose this is probably the easiest one to deal with. And again, the convenience of the Wavwatch far surpasses any of the other Rife technologies that I've seen out there. And that's why I'm so excited about this, because you've been able to take this technology and shrink it down to a unit that you wear. You don't have to do anything. You just put it on and go about your business. Do what you got to do.
I love it.
So.
And it has been fun because people are not thinking it through. There are, just like when supplements really got started, now all of a sudden we have 50 brands of vitamin D,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so how do you pick which is the right one for you? Well, the same thing now, you're going to see a plethora of tools, from the light or sound or chemicals, that kind of thing, that is going to be popping up.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to cram everything that I could on the Wavwatch, where other tools are not that way. And I'm not trying to say brand names, but if you start looking, there's a tool that you can wear on your wrist and it makes a sound, but it's only for calming.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want something for sleep, you buy another band to put on. So those are two frequencies. Well, I have that plus 1,198 other frequencies on the watch.
And I do want to...
You can get so carried away just buying everything under the sun when the Wavwatch has as much as I could get, crammed into it.
Sure. And I do want to point out that there are frequencies on the Wavwatch for anxiety, for depression, for addiction. I mean, there's all kinds of frequencies in there. You can balance your chakras. I mean, I was like jaw-dropping here. I said, wait a second, this does all this stuff? How am I ever going to benefit from, all these programs in here? There's all kinds of stuff in there. And so, whatever it is that you need or whatever it is that you're trying to deal with, chances are you're going to find some sort of a frequency that's going to have an effect on that.
Yes, and I try to make it that way because you never know when your life changes. So, I wear it kind of throughout the day. I'm not saying it's doing something or I have it on, but it's on my wrist. And so, quote unquote, all of a sudden, if I have a headache, I have a tool for it. I don't have to rush somewhere like people do to frantically, get a pill out of their glove compartment, or their medicine cabinet. Yeah. I have it on my wrist. Or if like the other day, I burned myself and I just put it on first aid and voila, I'm okay. But so you never know when something's going to happen. So those varieties of frequency ideas are perfect to have to be more useful every day, all day long, at any time.
Well, let me ask you, if we go to the website, you mentioned Wavwatch.com, is there a page there that has all the frequencies listed and what their assignments are?
Yes. I think you have to go to, I'm not sure what it is right now, actually.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off guard there. But
yeah, the support and the Wavewatch 2.0 guide. Yeah.
Okay, wavewatch.com/support, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Very good. And again, folks, if you want to do, you're going to have to do a little poking around and do some research. But again, I think you're going to find that all the information is easily obtainable if you just take the time to look for it. All right, in the closing minutes here, let me ask you, how has this been received? Obviously, we talked about Dr. Artis and Jan Halper-Hayes. Are there any other high-profile individuals out there that have given endorsements or, any types of, a good shot in the arm, say, you go, girl? Okay. Who else is out there doing this?
Well, I have some podcasters, Michelle Moore, Michael Jaco uses it on his show.
Oh, really? Okay.
Kevin Hoyt, the Truth Seekers. So several of your podcasters have been very instrumental in helping get the word out about it. So big shout out to all of them for their help. Yes.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad that, this is sort of like a snowball starting to roll down the mountain, and I wish you absolute success with this, and there's no reason why you shouldn't enjoy that. So again, I asked the folks out there, if you're curious now, if you want to find out about it, check the website out, wavewatch.com, and poke around. You could go to YouTube and do a search for Wavewatch, and there's plenty of information out there. You've given some tutorials, et cetera, et cetera. And once you've made your decision, I want you to run screaming to our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page and help us to keep the lights on here, folks. Get your Wavewatch.
Yes. And you could actually, I hope I'm not making it too much confusion, but you could order it off Wavewatch and you just put in Red Pill 100 as a discount code.
Yep. You could do it that way too.
People get lost. They get lost in jumping around, whichever way is the best. But make sure you use Red Pill 100. I love that code.
Well, it was Red Pill 101 because that's what I do here. I mean, I'm not a deep dive researcher, but I do come here with the audio receipts, as you probably realized when you were listening on the wings in the beginning of the program. I'm here with the audio receipts. It's not Dave saying this. You're going to hear directly from the horse's mouth. And I'm here with the facts, WTF. If that makes you feel better. Some people go, WTF? Oh, that's nasty. That's so nasty. Well, I'm here with the facts. So anyway, Linda, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that a lot of listeners out there are having their ears perk up and taking notice because this is something that really needs to be considered. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to having you on again sometime in the next couple of months.
Oh, thank you so much. It was great fun. I was just amazed with all your information. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Linda. Okay, that's going to wrap it up, folks. Boy, what a barn burner of a show. What do you say? All right, folks. It's time. The time goes by quickly when you're enjoying yourself. And if you're enjoying the broadcast, I ask that if you're listening on Rumble or BitChute or YouTube, I would ask you to click like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, and tell your friends about it. This is important information. So Anyway, that said, God bless you all. Have a wonderful afternoon. And I'll be back tomorrow with more of the news they hope and pray you never hear. I'm Dave vonKleist. These are the WTF Reports. God bless you all. Stay safe. And above all, stay free. And we'll see you tomorrow.
You won't